Well, I've got with me Rob Callister, who's been in doing his yearly interview. But while we're here, we have to talk, and I'm glad you've got the time to do it, about this amazing position you've taken on. I mean, I didn't see that one coming. I don't know if you did. Did you think you were ever going to make it into the tent as such and be round that table, the CoMin table?
I don't know. I think we all as MHKs just apply for the job, we come into it, and then we accept the positions that we're given.
Okay. This is not going to be an easy ride. Did you have choices, or I mean, would you pick this one? You're going to tell me you would take anything. I know you're going to tell me that, but seriously, this must be one of the worst ones to take.
No, I'll surprise you and actually say if I had to pick the departments, the two I said back in September last year was DOI or DFE. They're the two that I know very well. I felt I could have done it. But that doesn't mean that I won't step up to the plate and I give 100% into this position as the new Health and Social Care Minister.
Let's deal with the conspiracy theorists. I mean, you had to, no, not you, but somebody had to take over from Mr. Hooper because things were still being circling that what was going on in this tribunal, which overall has now been concluded, but there's still outstanding questions about other things that will no doubt have involved Mr. Hooper. I try and go around this, and there's been High Court challenges and that sort of thing. So now he's been put to one side. You come in, you'll be able to say, nothing to do with me, this was before my time, and he can now say, well, that's then and this is now, and I'm not involved.
Okay, well, I don't know anything about conspiracy theories. I think you'd have to ask that question to the Chief Minister or to Mr. Hooper. As the new Minister, I was asked to take up the position, and I think at some point we need to to draw a line under the historic and legacy issues.
We're not there yet, though, are we?
We're not probably, but we do need to draw that line. My focus as the new Minister is supporting the team within the Department of Health and Social Care, make sure that the Manx Care have all the tools and the support they need to deliver a better health and social care service on behalf of the islands.
And I'll come to that in a second, but you could have just gone to the Department for Enterprise, couldn't you? I mean, just fill the gap. That would not have been more logical.
Let's look at it logically.
And your fit would be better.
Well, no, I had experience within motorsport and within tourism.
Exactly.
Laurie had in his previous time, because you've got to remember Laurie was in there as well for 5 years, so I have 6 years experience.
Yeah, but you got the latest experience, so it would be a fit to just push
I think
you up.
both of us could have done the job, to be perfectly honest, because Laurie also had business and he had finance, and when we're trying to deal with the cost of living crisis, personally, I think Laurie is probably a better fit than me, because I could have gone in, even I would have accepted the role, but I think Laurie was probably a better fit.
You probably can't answer this, but did Laurie want to move? I know I should ask him, and I probably will, but did you have that conversation?
I haven't discussed it with him.
No.
He obviously had a conversation with the Chief Minister. I had a conversation with the Chief Minister, and me and Laurie spent about an hour just going through a few things, but that's it.
Okay. Now we've got to deal with this thing that's hanging over like a cloud. The case that's been proved that there was definitely, it's definite. You know, I'm always worried in case there's going to be something I'm just going to say that's going to upset somebody. But basically, Dr Ranson was badly treated, and the tribunal has found in her favour. And the names and the details that came out and what was going on behind the scenes just is been shocking people, not just on the Isle of Man, but especially in the health industry everywhere. What have you got to say on this?
At this present moment in time, it's very difficult for me to make comments. I've read everything, the judgment online, I've watched your videos, but at this moment in time, I haven't got the other side of the story. I haven't had any advice. As I say, I've only just gone into the department. My first week, I was appointed on Tuesday. I haven't even, just this morning was the first time I actually went into the department. So I've got such a catch up to do. So I'm aware of the case. But as I've said, my concern is to underline at some point those historic and legacy issues and to focus on the future. I also want to make sure that I protect the staff within the Department of Health and Social Care, because a lot of them are new, and I want them to deliver and to deliver the services that this island expects.
Okay, but you're going to the department where there's been this report about the bullying up at the hospital and all this goings on behind the scenes. This is nothing new. I mean, and the waiting times and all this thing, no one has fixed it. And the money gets thrown at your department and you get the extra money required because it is so important.
Well,
what are you going to do differently?
Okay, let me just look at this. Our job is to actually oversee Manx Care. Manx Care are there to deliver those services. They are mandated via the Manx, by the Manx mandate, the Manx Care mandate, to deliver those services. I will be working with that board, and I'll be working with the Chief Executive very closely to make sure they're delivering. and making sure they're fulfilling their promises within that mandate.
The buck stops with you, though, doesn't it? As such?
I am publicly accountable because the finances for Manx Care come through our department.
Yeah.
We have oversight. We're there to set the policy. We're there to set procedures. And we will do that. We'll make sure that Manx Care have the tools in order to deliver the services that this island needs. However, I think it's worth pointing out that they are under extreme financial pressure. Costs are increasing. You know, just the basic cost from last year compared to this year, they've increased. Plus, any organisation that is advertising 1 in 5 vacancies is going to be a challenge. So these are all of the situations that we have to overcome, but at the same time, deliver that service that people expect.
But you're saying that, and this is how it's working, Manx Care is this bumper between the health services and you, really. You know, is that really going to work at £3 million a year, whatever it is?
Well, they are mandated to deliver those services. They are just going into their second year. I think it's absolutely right that we continue this journey to see if they can change the culture, change the behaviour, change the delivery model.
Change the culture. There you go. Change the culture.
Everything. And I think if you speak to the chief executive during the conference, she was actually very clear in saying that she wants the culture to change. We want people to come forward when things aren't right. We want people to report things.
Well, you may do now, but you certainly that wasn't the Dr Ranson case.
Well, let's look. We're carrying out audits of services, and we know that there is some information and reports coming out that don't make good reading. But you know something, that from a new minister's point of view is welcome, and I know that sounds a bit daft, but those reports that are coming and they highlight areas of concern, it gives us something to look at, and it gives us an opportunity to change the service for the better.
But we bought in a health service in the UK, I can't remember how long ago it was, not that long ago. They were going here every year and doing reviews and checking on things and giving reports, and yet we're still getting this knowledge, these reports now that
we will.
Things that aren't right in any shape, form or fashion.
But I think it's going to take time, and I think we have to acknowledge that, Paul. It will take time. Manx Care are they've just completed their first delivery. They've actually publicly said that what they found, it is far more challenging than they expected, and I think as the minister I have to support them, give them, as I say, the legislative, the policy, the strategies, and if need be, the funding to deliver a better care service.
You are now in the situation where you can say all this, but you've got to deliver. You've got to believe in your civil servants, I presume, the people below you who are the ones that actually have got their hands on the system, if not actually dirty, but they're meant to be managing the whole thing. Can you honestly give it up 100% that you're going to be able to trust everything you're going to hear from these people, bearing in mind what has happened in the past?
As I say, if you take the roles I've done previously, I've always led by evidence, and I will be looking for the evidence. We have the Manx Care mandate. That's my first document. That's my Bible. That's what I'll be carrying in my back pocket all the time. So take, for example, if there is queries around A&E, and people are saying, why am I waiting 6 hours to get an appointment?
That's if you're lucky, it's more than that,
okay.
Isn't it?
Well, no, the actual document says on average 95% of people who go into A&E should be seen within 4 to 5 hours.
Sure.
Now, if suddenly that goes beyond that, I'll be asking questions, but we have to put it into context. We don't actually know what happened in the A&E department on that particular day. So not everything is black and white.
We'll find out.
Yeah, we will. And that's what I'm saying. That's just one example.
Yeah.
But we have to acknowledge that there is a significant pressures within our health service, and none of it's generated by Manx Care. A lot of it's just the factors globally. So, for example, drugs. Drugs have increased by millions of pounds. Just the same amount of drugs we bought last year is now costing millions of pounds more this year. And some of that's due to Brexit. Some of it's just due to the cost of living, supply chain. But these are all of the pressures that Manx Care have to address. And what we have to do is to make sure that Manx Care is delivering on its promises. That's what the department's role is.
Do you think it's £3 million well spent then, having Manx Care per year, isn't it? I hope I got that right, isn't it? Something
I'm not too sure. And as I say,
whatever it is, I apologise if it's wrong, but it's a lot of money. It's millions.
I'm literally hours into the department.
But do you think it's a good idea? The whole idea rather than just the old-fashioned way of just having the health service and you at the top of it. Now you've got this body in between, which costs whatever it does.
Okay, let's just clarify it. I think if you take what's gone previously, I think on a political level and a department level, they have struggled to get into some of the areas within our health service to really generate that change that we all expect. Now what we have is a professional board within Manx Care, and we have chief executive and a chairman and an executive team that are professional, so they can go into the hospital and speak to these individuals on a face-to-face basis.
Yeah, but it is another layer of bureaucracy potentially, isn't it?
I think what we've got to do is just give it some time, and I think it's had a year, but come on, they've got to go in and actually take the structure apart, have a look at what needs to be refixed. But as I say, they've got major challenges.
And they promised savings, haven't they? They've also promised that
they have to deliver around 1% in savings.
But everything's going up anyway, so...
Agreed. So they've got a lot of challenges. Now, I need to be seen to be supporting them, but I also need to be that critical friend to make sure that the people of this island are seeing the change. But I would like just to put on record, I think if you look at it, you ask most people on the island, are they happy with the care, the health and care service they receive on the island? I think the majority of people would say yes. They had a good experience when they went to the doctors or they went to the hospital. However,
it doesn't matter if it's 99%. You've got 1% who's had an absolute terrible time, and they're the ones that we all read about on forums or on Facebook and those sort of things, isn't it?
And that is what we've got to change. I'm not sure we'll ever get to 100%.
It'll never be that much.
It'll never be 100%. But I think what it is when people are making genuine representation. And I'll give you an example. There was a lady who contacted me from a constituent point of view, and she is wheelchair bound, and she said to me, she says, I've been turned down for patient transfer from my house to the place. So she was expected to get from her own home to the airport and then from the UK as well. There was just a breakdown. And when I spoke to Manx Care, they realised that there was an oversight.
So are you going to be a hands-on guy? Will you be in the hospital and sitting in A&E on Saturday night looking what's going on?
No.
I'm being slightly facetious.
Agreed. Okay.
Will you go and see the...
As I say, there is a document in place which says what my responsibilities are, what responsibilities are expected of Manx Care, but that doesn't mean that I will not have a visit the hospital. I will not speak to our ambulance drivers. I will not speak to nurses on the front line, or doctors, or GPs, or dentists, or anything else. So I will do all of that, but I have to respect the professional relationship of what is expected of Manx Care and what is expected from the department. What
you've opened yourself up to, though, by saying that some constituency got in touch with you, now your phone might be red hot because everyone might be ringing you directly to try and get things sorted.
No, I think people have got to be realistic. I think if there's avenues to be looked at, I think there's areas of concern, then I will pick that up. But I think if my first day, as I say, I had 100, 200 emails from people who had historically had problems. We're trying to feed through those. We're hoping to respond to them. Most of the time when people contact their MHK is because they've exhausted all other avenues.
Would you see yourself having to, give this up if it didn't go your way? I mean, or how do you read it? If you can't make the changes you're basically saying here, do you then fall on your sword because you haven't been able to accomplish this? And you've got, I suppose 4 years technically, haven't you? I mean, technically.
I'm hoping what we're looking at is the mandate. And I say I'm going to go through that mandate in fine detail. I've already read it, but what I want to do now is how can we strengthen that mandate for people to see the differences. It's more around the basics, the doctors, the nurses, it's the GPs, it's the dentists. They're the sort of areas that people want to see. If you ring your GP, you want to get an appointment when you need it. How many NHS dentists do we need on the island? These are all the basics. So we've got to carry out audits and checks of this to see how many do we actually need on the island. But we also have to acknowledge that all of the problems that we have within our health service is the same that the UK are having. So we've got to think a little bit out of the box. And I know Teresa Cope was talking about bringing, training more nurses on island, because we've got to move away from bank and temporary staff because they're expensive. We need to be focusing on frontline services.
Would you take Dr Ranson back
on? That's a very wide left sort of question. I don't know. I have to get through this hearing and see where it goes.
She was illegally dismissed, and therefore she's entitled, no doubt, isn't she, to go back? I mean, I don't know. I had to say, I've only just gone into the department. I've read what's on the Wouldn't this be a great thing to say, though? Yes, she can come back.
I can't make that decision. And I say, I've got to just wait. I've got to take the advice. I need to read the other side of it because I've got the judgments. I've watched your videos. But I don't know.
Finally, should we pursue the people who have clearly... Again, I'm always worried about saying definitely anything, but, it appears that there's been misled. The tribunal was misled, more than that, by people who are working for the department, albeit maybe in a off-island capacity.
These are incredibly difficult questions, and I apologise to Dr Ranson there. I wasn't trying to dismiss
Do you apologise to her then? Would you?
I can't at this moment because obviously I know so little about the case, and I think it's fair that
she's won it.
Agreed, and I acknowledge she's won the case, but I think we also have to acknowledge that there's 2 ministers before me in this.
That's what I'm saying, though, isn't it? It's not yours. It's somebody else's to deal with it.
Well, it is. It's a fair.
But you're the new broom.
I am, and I'm hoping I can get to the end of this. And as I've said throughout this interview, I want to get to a point where we can underline some of the historic and legacy issues and focus on delivering the health and care service that people expect.
Because one thing is desperately going to happen out of this is that a lot of money is going to be paid to her in compensation, which could have been spent on health service and like go to the High Court. Would you have done that, for instance? Or do you know the ins and outs of what went on there?
I don't know. No. I don't know the depth of this case, and I say I have got meetings scheduled to get a better understanding of the case. Personal view, I'd like to get to the point of we can just conclude this, and if I can conclude it, I will do. But again, I have to be respectful that I need both sides of the story, and I need to understand what's going on. But as I say, my focus is on the future and protecting the workforce we have.
Are you looking forward to it?
Yes, very much so. I mean, I think it's a unique opportunity. It's a great role. It's going to be challenging. It's going to push me to the limits. I'm almost certain of that. But that doesn't mean that I will not try, by the end of this administration, to have a better health and care service on our island.